Guys, thanks for listening to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I also want to thank the following sponsors for their support of this podcast. Without them, this podcast would not be possible. I want to thank the Go Hunt Insider, Lorenzo Sartini and his crew over at Go Hunt. They have created the Insider, which is an amazing tool for you guys that are researching all these different western states and looking for which units to apply for and put in for. They also have the Go Hunt maps, the Go Hunt gear shop. Right now, go to gohunt.com, click sign up for the Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a $50 Go Hunt gear shop gift card just for signing up. Go Hunt's been with me since the beginning of 2015. When I started this podcast, they've been a very loyal title sponsor of this podcast, and I want to thank them for their support. Make sure to go and sign up for the Go Hunt Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. Guys, I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That's KUIU.com. KUIU Ultralight Hunting is a direct-to-consumer brand that sells the best ultralight hunting equipment and gear on the market today. You can go to KUIU.com, and order directly there on their website. I also want to thank phonescope.com, Cheston, the guys over at Phonescope. Go to phonescope.com. Anything you order there, use the JScott23 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount there at Phonescope. I also want to thank Lathrop & Sons. They're a custom boot system and custom footbed manufacturer. These guys are the boot doctors, the boot gurus. They're very, very helpful. They know a lot about boots. I have switched this season to the Lathrop & Sons Encompass boot. That's what I've worn primarily on my Coues deer and mule deer hunts in Mexico. And then I use the Mountain Hunter for my sheep hunts, specifically desert sheep, in any of that more technical terrain. Lathrop & Sons has a phenomenal 3D mapping imprints and tracing kit. They make custom orthotics, just really, really comfortable, very user-friendly boots and custom insoles. Go to lathropsons.com to find out more information. You can also check out Lathrop & Sons on Instagram. They have 3 custom boot options: the Mountain Hunter, the Mountain Hunter Elite, and the Mountain Hunter Encompass, as well as the High Country Synergy footbeds custom. They also make all of these custom footbeds in wide and super wide, as well as the boots, which is rare for a boot manufacturer. Reach out to the owners, Stephen and James at Lathrop & Sons at 618-544-8782. That's lathropsons.com. Guys, I want to thank you for supporting this podcast. Love to hear your feedback. Any questions you might have, you can reach out at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. That's my email address. You can follow along on Instagram at jscottoutdoors. Always feel free to send me a direct message. Love hearing from you guys. And let's get right to these episodes.
Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. This is your guest host, Cliff Gray. Today I have Justin Erhart of Premium Hunts on to discuss the New Mexico draw and hunt opportunities in New Mexico. Justin, give us a quick intro on your business and the hunting and guiding experience you have in New Mexico, and we'll go from there. I know you've been on the podcast at least one time before, so go for it, man.
Hey, thanks, Cliff. Yeah, we're a smaller outfit. We're based right on the Arizona-New Mexico border, so we try to hunt the best of both worlds between the two states.
Okay, good deal. So you do some outfitting in Arizona also?
Yeah, we do. We're right here on the line, so it makes it pretty easy for us to hit a little bit of both sides.
I gotcha. Good deal. Well, I know the Arizona is the Arizona draw completely. Is it done? The deadline's over, or do you guys still have time?
For elk and antelope, it closed on the 14th.
Okay, gotcha. And then what else is left there?
So there'll still be deer and bighorn sheep and, maybe some buffalo and stuff, but that won't be usually till a little bit later in the year, maybe around June.
Sure, I got you. Good deal. Well, that's good because then we can just focus on New Mexico for the listeners on this one, right?
Yep.
But on that, Justin, what are the deadlines and all of that for New Mexico that people need to be cognizant of for the draw there?
So the draw deadline for the big game species in New Mexico is going to be March 22nd at 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time.
Good deal. So let's just jump into your thoughts on the New Mexico draw, Justin. What, I guess if you were a non-resident to New Mexico and you were looking at it as a state to put in, what are the different options that you think people should consider?
New Mexico for a non-resident, it's definitely, a state that you want to be applying in. There's no point system in New Mexico, so you don't gain bonus points. So, if you miss a year, you're not ever going to fall behind. And if you're just starting to apply, you're not coming in 20 years behind somebody else. So it's really a state that guys really need to be applying in.
Sure. And that seems to be becoming more and more relevant. The more I look at my own personal draw and talk to other folks that are focused on other states, I mean, this whole, point creep and just this mass accumulation of points by folks. If you're just starting, there's not a whole lot of great places to really, start applying for. And obviously New Mexico fits that mold because everybody's in the same boat, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nobody likes a point game unless you're sitting on, 20 plus points, and, those people don't even like it until the year they draw. So
right.
It's a good state to apply in just for that reason. I mean, you potentially have the same chance as everybody else every year. So it's a great state to apply in.
Yeah, I gotcha. And when you say that, Justin, like what are the species? I mean, should people be applying to all the species? Like where do you view is like the opportunities there that maybe not everybody thinks about or that they should focus on? And all of them or should they kind of pick and choose?
It really depends on each individual, but and I apply for everything over there. So, once I enter my application, I'm going in for all species. And the only thing about New Mexico is they do charge you the full amount up front. So, for somebody to put in for all species as a non-resident, you're looking probably north of 10 grand.
Yeah, that's going to be tied up, right?
Yep. And they keep it tied up for about a month. I think they're supposed to release the results somewhere around April 26th. So they'll have your money for a month at least if you wait till the deadline day to apply.
Yeah. And that also means you gotta forewarn your wife or husband or whoever about the credit card bill that's going to come running through. I always notice that it's like I always got to tell my wife, like, look, it's just temporary. And then if I draw the text, it's not temporary, and that's okay. By then she'll have forgot about it anyways. But
yeah, you either warn them or hide it. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's relevant, man, because it's a lot of money to just post up. You know what I mean? And it's I think New Mexico isn't it? I think it's the last state, Justin, that does that makes you post it all up, unless I'm wrong.
I'm not familiar with all the states, but it sure seems like out of all the states that I apply in, that's about the only one that's taking the money up front.
Yeah, and I feel like 5 or 6 years ago that was a lot more common. You know what I mean? That was kind of the deal, but some of that's gone away. But anyways, man, let's like what part of the state do you mostly hunt in and guide in? And I guess give your perspective on that, and you can go as broad or as detailed as you want, Justin. I think it'd just be interesting for the listeners. I think sometimes when we just put in for these draws, year over year, and very much I do this myself, but I think most people do this. We just put in for the same units that we did the last year. So is there anything, that's happening on the elk front or deer front, or even in these exotic species that people should people should think about whenever they look at their New Mexico draw?
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to, years in the past, there's definitely been some changes between each species. Definitely one of the main changes in the state this year that I'm sure most people have heard about is on the muzzleloader hunts. A new rule they implemented is there's iron sights only on any muzzleloader season. So that's going to have a big impact on, people who apply there or don't apply there for certain muzzleloader hunts.
What do you think's going to happen, man? Do you think that the odds will be better because a bunch of guys will drop out, or what do you think will actually occur on that front?
I've kind of kicked it around multiple ways. I mean, I think for the first year or so, it's probably not going to have much effect on, drawing odds or anything like that. But I think, after maybe a year or two of guys trying it out and stuff with the open sights, that it's probably going to start to get a little easier to draw for some of those units. But, you're basically cutting your effective range down to 200 yards max with the iron sight.
Right.
And that's for elk, I mean, even on, muzzleloader Coues deer tag now, I mean, you better be within bow range because everybody knows how small they are.
Right. It's crazy to hear you say that. So my background guiding and outfitting in Colorado, Justin, it's always been open sight muzzleloaders. And what you just said, like, yeah, like in my mind, like, there's so much technology that goes into them, but that limitation with the optic is for sure going to keep you under 200 yards for elk. But just fill me in, man, because I'm naive. What would you, before this rule with a muzzleloader, you could have whatever optic you wanted on it. What would you consider like effective range? Like how far were people killing elk with these guns?
I mean, we've killed a handful north of 500 yards with the muzzleloaders, before they took the scopes away from us. So basically, and they were, pretty much a single shot rifle. I mean, you definitely had some more math to do and everything to calculate the drop and whatnot, because they were dropping at a more rapid pace, but they were very effective at killing, 500 yards, even further. And that's not even going to be an option now with iron sights. I mean, you'd just be wasting less.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a massive. It's crazy, man. Because I was fairly naive to it. Because, like I said, I've always been exposed to them without optics on them. But that all makes sense. I mean, so you're talking, they're much before this rule. It was much closer to rifle hunting. Now it's much closer to archery hunting. Is really from a effective, distance and
yeah. Yep, definitely. I mean, we were running, big scopes with turrets on our muzzleloaders. So, if you did your homework with gun and your optics, I mean, you were shooting half-minute groups with some of the better muzzleloaders at, 500 yards, which is incredible.
Yeah, sure. Pretty crazy. No, that's interesting. So that's one change. Is there any, do you have any, and this could totally just be an opinion question, Justin, but are there any dynamics on the game population front on any of these species that people should think about when they're applying?
What do you mean by that?
Like, well, are there certain parts of the state where the elk aren't doing as well? Are there any population dynamics with these the ibex or the aoudad or the oryx that people should consider? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you're going to see better units in portions of the state, and then, obviously some units that aren't going to be holding near as many elk, but, they're obviously the less desirable units to hunt.
Right.
You will see some change throughout the state for sure.
Yeah, I gotcha. Have you seen much change? Do you primarily hunt and guide for elk, Justin, or what species are you focused on?
We do a lot of species in New Mexico. Every year we're subject to the draw like everybody else. So Some years we may not get to hunt something, but it's there's just a lot of species over there to hunt. I mean, you got bighorn sheep, deer, oryx, ibex, Barbary sheep, elk, antelope. Just there's tons of opportunities for hunting if people are willing to throw their name in the hat.
Right. And can you give us a little insight on the guided pool and the non-guided pool in terms of the draw in New Mexico?
Yep. So in New Mexico, they divide their tags. A minimum of 84% has to go to the resident. So in New Mexico, they give you an 84-6-10 split. So 84% at least to the resident. Up to 10% of the tags can be gifted to the guided pool or outfitter pool, which is somebody who's contracted with an outfitter and signed contracts prior to applying. And then they also offer up to 6% for non-resident, not in the outfitted pool, just DIY guys.
Gotcha. So what does that look like in the draw? Does it make it like, do you see big differentials between putting in for the guided option versus the do-it-yourself, or what does that usually look like?
There's not huge benefits, but there's definitely benefits worth taking advantage of if you're one of those guys that's going to go on a guided hunt anyways. I mean, you definitely want to be in the guided pool, or even if you're on the fence. Basically to sign into that outfitted pool, though, you're supposed to have contracts signed with an outfitter prior to applying, and you have to be with that outfitter or a registered guide with that company for a minimum of 48 hours.
Yeah, during the hunt. I gotcha.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And from your perspective, how does that work? Do people reach out to you before the draw and then talk to you about whatever options, and you'd probably give them some tips or whatever on what they might want to apply for, and then they put into the draw with your number or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. We usually go over the hunts and, season dates and, unit quality and prices. And if it's something that they want to do, then, we can sign the contracts and they get in on it.
Gotcha. So, one opportunity that intrigues me quite a bit in New Mexico, and just tell me, Justin, if you have a lot of experience or not on it, and just your insights on it, is the Aoudad. Are you familiar with like the do-it-yourself options there on the Aoudad, or even the private land stuff?
We don't do any private land Aoudad. We do a lot of the public season hunts and, certain units. Obviously, there's some that are better than the others. We generally like to stay in units 29 and 30. They've been pretty good hunts, great hunts in the past. We've killed some great rams, but this year they did throw in a lot more tags and season dates. So I expect quality to kind of hold for about a year, and it's going to start tapering off.
Right. And those, man, and I'm not looking at it, Justin. Maybe the rough odds on them, but like those type of units, if a guy's putting in for and Aoudad has the same deal, right? They have do-it-yourself or guided pool when you put in.
Yep. Basically, they do that with pretty much every species, but you have to be careful what hunts you're applying for, because if you're a DIY guy and you're applying for, say, an antelope hunt or something that's got, 10 tags only or 5, 6 tags, then you don't even have a chance at drawing. It's got to be something that's probably north of 10 tags available before you would even have a chance in the non-guided, non-resident pool.
Oh, okay. I got you. So back on the Aoudad, if somebody wants to go, they want to go hunting with you in one of those public land units there, what'd you say, 29 and 30? What kind of odds are they looking at roughly?
At draw odds?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the draw odds. I mean, they're getting more and more popular, so they're definitely the last 5 years have been getting harder and harder to draw. This year, I imagine, might up the odds a little bit with all the new tags they're issuing, but they're better odds than say elk or something, but they're still not easy.
Yeah, I got you. What are the hunts like, man? Are they pretty in the spectrum of, difficulty and, density of animals, maybe the quality of rams that you guys end up harvesting? What does that look like, Justin?
And they're fun hunts. I really enjoy them. I mean, it's a spot and stock type hunt. You spend a lot of time in the glass. You can be out of the truck hiking and beating out canyons all day long if you want. So difficulty, you can definitely choose the difficulty that you want for the hunt. I mean, there's sheep in mild terrain, there's sheep in the most rugged terrain there is. So, as far as difficulty, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to be to cater to that.
Right. What's the upper end of the quality of rams that are killed on the public land, New Mexico?
Anymore on average, I would say your average ram that's being killed is probably like a 26-inch ram, maybe.
Yeah.
We try to go for, that 28 and up range. We've killed them as high as 33 in New Mexico. So there's some great rams. I mean, you obviously gotta, like any species, when you're hunting that top end, you gotta weed through the little ones to find a great one.
Yeah. So I've hunted them quite a bit, but all in Texas, all the free range stuff, but still in Texas. And I actually, one season of guiding them, I had a bunch of them aged, and because I was curious of like what, how old these big rams are. And I had them aged through a lab that does, probably the most well-known lab in the US to age animals, but I'm still wary of the the accuracy of it. But
Right.
what are your thoughts on that, man? These rams that are 29-inch, 30-inch rams, and bigger, how old do you think they are, Justin?
Each one's different, but I'm thinking anywhere from that 6 to 8 range.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that. So when I aged a bunch of really big rams, like everything was between 28 and 33 inches. They were
Right.
they were like in that range, and in a couple of them were actually younger than that. And I just found that interesting because I've heard a lot of people tell me, oh man, those 32-inch rams, they're 10, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I always kind of question that because I would see, I've been around bighorns too. Not, they're obviously a much different species, but I would see in aoudad, sometimes some of these free range, areas in Texas, you'll see, they haven't been hunted that much. So you'll see like 15, 30-inch rams together. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it would always
Crazy.
like, yeah, crazy, and it would cross my mind like, it's just weird from a population dynamic for a bunch of for all these rams to get like 12 years old or whatever. So it's just interesting to me. It's funny you say that because I think you're real close, man. I think these big rams are what you're saying, like between 5 and 8.
Yeah, obviously be able to tell on those super old rams. They'll have that big blockhead. They'll have mass all the way out to the end. I mean, that's probably when you're getting more around that 10 plus range. But as far as New Mexico goes, there's very few sheep that are making it to 10.
Yeah, and that's just hunting pressure related, you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, year after year, they're putting out quite a few tags, and it's definitely gone down in sheep numbers the past 5 years, I would say, but it's still been really good hunting.
And they're either sex tags?
They are.
Yeah. I have a random question for you because you've spent some time in them in a different geography than I've dealt with them. Have you ever seen like a lion kill or anything that was an aoudad?
I never have. One of my guys, a few years ago glassed up a lion when we were hunting them, but never have found a kill.
Yeah, I always wonder because I I wonder, even in that, in Texas where they're in like the Big Bend area and stuff, I kind of wonder if the predators that are there just don't leave them alone, and they just focus on other species. Because I've never seen where one was killed by a natural predator, which is kind of interesting, at least from my dorky perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never ran into any lion kills or anything like that. I'm sure there is some predators
Oh yeah,
that are taking them time to time, but
sure. Yeah, no, I hear you. So I mean, and like you said, the popularity of Aoudad is getting more and more popular. So that's probably one of those hunts that people should, if they want to hunt one, because they're getting pretty expensive now too in Texas, right?
oh yeah, Texas prices are sky high in a lot of the more popular areas.
Right. Do you have any experience with the ibex or oryx in New Mexico?
Yeah, we hunt. We actually just got off of a hunt a few days ago over for oryx on the White Sands Missile Range.
Okay, cool. Do you give me the do you know give the listeners kind of the perspective on draws there, how it works and where they're hunting and what those hunts kind of look like. I actually drew in for context, I drew one last year. And it was on the experimental range and it was a freaking blast. I put in for New Mexico really for the elk opportunities,
Yeah.
Justin. So I never really thought about oryx, but now that I've gone on a hunt, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. So, but anyways, man, yeah, fill the listeners in on what those hunts look like and all that good stuff.
So they offer, a few different options throughout the state. Obviously, the most popular ones are the once in a lifetime hunt on the White Sands Missile Range. Within that range, they offer a few different areas. The more popular ones and the better ones are going to be the Rhodes Canyon Range and the Stallion Range. Both really good, good quality in both, good numbers in both. They're the more sought after ones for sure. But then they also offer, off range hunts, which are basically anywhere off range, off of the missile range, statewide. And those hunts have even become more popular as well. They're getting to be pretty hard to draw, really.
And are those broke down? I'm so naive to this, dude. But hopefully it'll help other people who are listening. Are those off-range tags? Are they broken out into units, or are they just like general off-range tags?
Nope, it's just everything off the missile range. So generally, most people are going to be somewhat relatively near the missile range itself. Whether it's a mile out or 20 miles out, but you get too far away, your odds of seeing an oryx are slim to none.
Right. And if someone
But
somebody puts in for that off range tag, should they have the perspective that they're gonna be able to hunt on public land, or is that unrealistic? They really need to consider that they're gonna need to work out some, a deal with an outfitter or private land or something like that.
no, there's public land to hunt. I mean, when we hunt off range, we're hunting public land only. So it's it's still a pretty decent hunt. I mean, but you never know. You can go a day without seeing any oryx for sure. But there's usually really good opportunity. We're probably 100% on those hunts, but they're not easy hunts. You have to take the slow days with the good days too.
Yeah, no, I hear it. And man, they're my very limited experience hunting them. One thing, they're a crazy beautiful animal. I wasn't really expecting that, Um,
Yeah.
and they're just cool. But I was amazed the ones that we hunted. Like it appears to me that they never drink water. Are they when you? I don't know that that's the case, but it seemed like the way they're living. I'm like, man, these things are like, they've got to be like 5-10 miles from water. Most of their existence in some of the spots we were hunting them. When you're hunting them on public land, like what are you looking for? Do you just have historical spots? Are they sensitive to water? And I'm just naive to that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
you won't catch them at water very often. That's for sure. The hunt we just finished over there, the White Sands Missile Range, was actually, they gave us a little packet because there was some university or something that was doing a study on the effects the water has with the oryx and so on and so forth. And they actually, we had to take blood samples out of the oryx that we harvested, and just, they're going to do a study on it to see exactly how long they can go without water and stuff. But I can honestly say you're not going to catch them at water very often. So we generally target on the off-range hunts. There's spots that have been good to us year after year. So those are the spots we're going to get up high and spend some time in the glass, or just cover ground if it's the flatter portion.
Yeah. No, I got you. And I'm sure there's just like vegetation or something that keeps them in historical locations. And you touched on something there, man, that I know that I was naive to, and that's that depending on the tags, you're either going to be given some guidance on where you're at on these, when you're on the on range hunts, or they're going to have a chaperone with you. What does that look like in your experience, Justin? My take on it is when I drew a tag on the experimental range there, it's what is it? Hornada? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was there. They call them chaperones with you. And there's, right. They say there's unexploded ordnance and stuff. I mean, it makes sense, right? And you got to kind of know where you're going and all of that. And before I went on the hunt, I was like, I wonder how that's gonna look like. Like, I had this perception that they were gonna send me out with like a guy on with a lab coat and was gonna be like a uber nerd or something like that, and it was gonna be kind of weird or that sort of thing. That was like this what I was daydreaming about, and it totally wasn't like that. Like, the guy they sent me with was awesome. He loved hunting. We had a good time. So, but tell me your experience on that. What people should expect.
So I've never done any of the hunting on the area.
Oh, okay. So you haven't been exposed to it. Okay.
But as far as like the Rhodes Canyon range and the Stallion range, they don't necessarily send somebody with you.
Okay.
They're 3-day hunts, and that first day you spend about the first half of that first day in a big meeting where they go over all the do's and don'ts of the range itself and any new closures there might be. Of course, all the same closures there always are. And like you said, most of those closures are because there's some type of, unexploded ordnance in the area. You definitely have to pay attention at these meetings because they will tell you real quickly, the areas you can and can't go into, and basically all the rules. And if you screw up, you're off the range and you're not coming back. Your hunt's over.
Right. Sure. Which is reasonable, right there. It's there in a way. It's nice that the opportunity's there. So, following some rules makes sense.
It's been great. I mean, we've been hunting the oryx on the range for years and years and years, and I'm happy that nobody has screwed it up for the future generations yet. So hopefully everybody continues to do it right.
Yeah, for sure. Have you noticed on the off-range hunts that more of them are coming off of the range? Are they dispersing, you think, Justin, or is it kind of pretty much status quo?
About, I don't know, probably 8 years ago or so, there was quite a few more off range, but since they've gained in popularity and they're, obviously getting more exposure throughout the hunting industry, they're not easy to find off range, but we have good success on it.
Yeah. It's nice that it's nice that New Mexico, I guess in a sense, they still view them as very much like a game species off range. Like in Texas, if it's an exotic and it's on your place, you can shoot it whenever and whatever. You know what I mean? It's basically, open season on them. it's nice that New Mexico hasn't taken that tact on these exotics, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love that there's actually the exotics available to hunt throughout the state. I mean, these animals are pretty much living in areas where there's not much else living in the area itself. So, definitely opens up a lot more opportunities.
Yeah. No, I hear you. What haven't we covered, man? You don't do any, you might have some knowledge of it. And somebody brought it up to me. Have you ever done javelina hunts in New Mexico?
No, we don't do any javelina over there.
I could tell
No,
you responded. I could tell you responded. You're like, why would anybody want to do that?
that's about like when Jay asks me about turkey.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think he shares your opinion on javelinas, though, man. He's not a big javelina guy. They intrigue me because just in my, in all my hunting experience, I haven't been around them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Right.
a new little animal. All the area, and I had some questions about this. All the area that you've spent time in, Justin, it's fairly far from the border. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple border units that. So, which border are you talking? Arizona or Mexico?
No, the Mexico border.
Yeah, so there's really only a few units that are going to be down there. We've definitely spent time in all of them, but some of them are getting pretty overrun with illegal activity, border crossings and stuff, and they're not super fun anymore.
Yeah, what's the give us the quick rundown on that, like the realistic view of that, because it's, I guess in my mind, if I was applying for a unit down there, going on a hunt down there, I don't know that I would be, like it would deter me from putting in for a hunt that I had some information on that was good or was going to be a cool experience. But, with what you see going on, it would for sure cross my mind like, I should probably know like the inside scoop and how to be cautious and, what's important to consider. So give us that, Justin, if you can.
Man, honestly, it's just you never know what you're going to run into down there. I mean, there's times we've packed in and camped out, and you wake up and there's new sets of footprints,
Sure,
50 to 100 yards from your tent. So it's kind of uneasy feeling, but most of those people are trying to get out of there undetected, just like the deer are and everything else. So we just try to stay away from any of the activity the best we can, and we haven't had any issues, but we've definitely had some run-ins.
Yeah. Basically, just be cognizant of your surroundings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I got you. Justin, are there any hunts that like, I mean, are there any hunts out there that when somebody calls you and they, they're going to put in for, elk, mule deer, one of these exotics in New Mexico that you just look forward to guiding? Like what's your favorite hunt to guide there?
Oh, for every species, we have definitely our favorite hunts for sure. Obviously, they're going to be the more better hunts for numbers and quality. Elk, I really, really like the 16A and D. That's Alpha and Delta. Those are probably my top two elk units.
Yeah, and mule deer hunting, I've heard mixed things. Are there opportunities for big deer there, or how should people view that?
Honestly, the mule deer in New Mexico, man, it's struggling pretty much across the board. I mean, yeah, you can get lucky and dig up a big one in, a handful of units throughout the state for sure, but just overall the numbers and quality has just been on a downward spiral for years.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, and I've kind of heard that. Good deal, man. Well, hey, thanks for your time, Justin. Let the listeners know, where they can contact you, maybe follow you on social media if they were to draw one of these tags, or if they they want to put in for that guided pool in the draw, how they could get a hold of you.
Yeah, yeah, guys, you can reach me at 928-245-8722, or you can look us up, on social media. Shoot me an email at info@premiumhunts.com. We can talk about all the hunts and opportunities there are in New Mexico. I mean, there's great youth hunts available, mobility impaired hunts available. There's good quality to be had in New Mexico, especially on a moisture year like we're having.
Sure. Hey, touch on the youth stuff real quick, Justin. Like what in particular are the ones that people should think about?
Man, there's some great youth hunts for pretty much all the species. They give the youth some of the best dates there are for elk. I mean, you're talking, the youth hunts this year, I believe, are kicking off October 7th. So are the mobility impaired. So those are, basically your first firearm season after the bow hunt. So they're great hunts for elk, for the youth.
And in New Mexico, they're actually separate. They're separate season dates.
Yeah, correct. So most of the youth hunts, there's not a ton of tags, but there's, I'd say 25 tags basically in each hunt. And there's, probably 6, 7, 8 units that have youth hunts for either sex elk. And with that October 7 time frame, you're getting some rut action still. I mean,
Sure.
You can pick up some pretty good bulls still with cows.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah, there's youth opportunities for basically every species. So, if anybody wanting to get some kids in the draw, thanks for giving me a holler.
Cool. Good deal, man. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
If you want to keep in touch with me, get on my website at pursuitwithcliff.com and sign up for the newsletter. Check out my YouTube channel. It's just under my name, Cliff Gray. And you can follow me on Instagram at CliffGRY. Thanks for listening.